This video is based on microeconomics and it's looking at income elasticity of demand. So income elasticity of demand shows the effect of a change in income on quantity demanded. And what it'll do is it'll categorize products based on that responsiveness. So for example, if you had an inferior good, that would suggest that if your income increased, then the demand for these types of goods will actually fall. Or vice versa, if your income fell, then the demand for these types of goods would actually rise and would go up. And then you've got normal goods. Now, normal goods can be broken down into normal necessity goods or normal luxury goods. And what you tend to find is, if your income goes up, then your responsiveness to demanding these types of goods would also go up. So how do you calculate this, or how do you work this out? Well, you use the formula below, and as we can see here, what we look at is the percentage change. So it's really important that you do calculate the percentage change. And if you're a little bit unsure on calculating percentage change, there is a video on the channel. So the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in income. Now, if it's negative, this number, okay, then we know it's an inferior good because it'd be a negative relationship. If it's a positive, then we'd have to look at, well, how positive is it? Because if it's less than 1, but it's still positive, then we'd base that as a normal necessity good. But if it exceeds 1 and it's high and it's much higher, okay, or if you've got a range of products, the highest one would be the most luxury out of all the goods. Now, if we consider these types of goods below, before we can do the calculation, we can already have maybe assumptions. So if we think about, for example, this holiday looks like it's in the Maldives, we'd probably consider the Maldives as a luxury service. So what we'd expect is that if our income goes up, then the demand for this type of holiday would also go up. But obviously we'd need the data and we'd need to calculate it. Lidl, which is a discount supermarket, again, what we'd expect is if our income went up, then we might find more expensive alternatives. So we may actually avoid the discount supermarkets and we'd go for the likes of Waitrose or the likes of maybe Sainsbury's. So therefore that suggests that Lidl is an inferior supermarket selling discounted goods. If we think about, for example, going out, going to fancy restaurants, again, we'd probably see that as more of an occurrence when our income is higher or our disposable income goes up. If you think about modes of transport and we think about buses, now if our income goes up, then what we may think is, well, okay, we won't get a bus anymore, why don't we get a taxi? So we could see that a bus is possibly more inferior to maybe a taxi. But then we could also say the same for a taxi. And you can have a look at different types of taxi. Uber's always interesting with this. The fact that you can get different categories of Uber. So maybe if your income goes up, then maybe you do not mind paying a little bit extra for a more premium service of Uber. If we think about aeroplanes and flights, again, you'd probably find that in terms of economy class, that would be possibly at a point where your income is lower. But once your income increases, then you may opt for more business class. And again, in terms of other types of goods, such as luxury chocolate. So why is income elasticity important? Well, first of all, it can help the business with decision making, and it can help with strategies. They can prepare for example, external factors which may impact the economy. One example being, when the last recession hit the UK in terms of the big global recession of 2008, companies like Poundland, companies like Sports Direct, that already knew that they were seen as an inferior company. They already were aware that usually if income goes up, then demand might start to shift elsewhere. But when they realised that the recession was on its way and the recession was happening, then they decided that this was a prime time to organically grow. And they thought it was a prime time to expand and increase their shops all over the country. And the reason for that is because they knew that incomes were going to fall, unemployment was going to rise, and therefore demand for inferior goods were also going to increase. It can also help companies decide in terms of adjusting their product portfolio. Again, with the last recession, you found premium companies starting to bring out cheaper options. For example, the likes of BMW bringing out a more affordable car. And the reason for that again is because they knew that their luxury goods might have been impacted because of, again, the economic climate. Again, companies, if they're noticing that the demand for their products is quite low, and they're questioning why, they might want to look at the income elasticity, and they might want to adjust their pricing strategy as well. Now, the best way in understanding income elasticity is simply to practice and to have a go at questions. Have a look at your textbooks, have a go at the questions within the textbooks, but I've got one here for you as well. So if employees' income has increased from $24,000 to $27,000 and the units for the good has gone from 200 units to 180 units, what is the YED? So first of all, just remember what the formula is, okay? So you're looking at percentage change. So you're looking at the comparison between the original and the new. And also remember, you're looking at quantity demanded first, because that goes on top of the formula, and then you're looking at the change in income. Now, from reading this question, we can already see that income has risen, but demand has fallen. So we can already guess that this is going to be an inferior good, but by how much? So if you pause the video, and if you have a go at calculating the income elasticity now, and then we'll have a look at the answers together. So I've blocked it out just to show you the different steps within this formula. So first of all, what we can see is I've gone for quantity here. So there's a change from 200 to 180, so we see that it's fallen. But we have to divide it by the original, so we work out the difference, divide it by the original, and we get a 10%. Then what we've got is the income, and then the new income which has risen. So we do 24,000 minus 27,000, divide by the original. We always divide by the original when looking at the percentage change, and we get minus 12.5%. So again, going back to the original formula for income elasticity, we do our percentage change in quantity over our percentage change in price. So we do 10% over minus 12.5%, and we get minus 0.8, which is an inferior good. Now, in terms of how inferior that it is, well, that, I suppose you have to compare that to the industry. You have to compare that in terms of different products. But you'd probably argue that minus 0.8 is pretty inferior, okay? And again, remember, an inferior good is a minus, is less than zero, and therefore, think about certain products. You can think of, I've already mentioned Lidl, Aldi, those discount supermarkets. If you think about, again, Poundland, think about Sports Direct, think about the dollar shop in other countries. If you consider modes of transport, if you think about, for example, maybe the bus, all of these are examples of inferior goods, where if your income rises, you're likely to switch from those goods to maybe more premium goods. And again, it's just worth pointing out, just remember, if it's a normal necessity good, then the responsiveness isn't going to be that great. You're still going to buy those necessity goods regardless of if your income goes up or your income goes down, because in necessity goods, you need them anyway. But with luxury, it is much more responsive, so therefore you are much more likely to buy these goods if your income rises.